Hey everybody, this is Peter. Welcome to Our Worship Sound, where we're working to make worship keyboard technique and technology easier. Several years ago, I did a video talking about my keyboard rig here at church, and I've updated it quite a bit, so I wanted to do another video to show you what I've done. And I'm going to put up a couple pictures as I edit this video of some different rigs that I've used in the past, not just the rig here, but one that I used quite a few years ago when I was leading worship at a summer camp. And it looks quite a bit different than what I'm using today. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I just want things to be simpler, or if it's just because the technology has gotten a lot better, or probably a little bit of both. But I've done some changes to make things a lot simpler. So let me talk to you about what I've done and a little bit about why I've done it as well, and some of the advantages of this setup. So here we go. Let me show you my setup. So the heart of the setup is still the Yamaha S80, which is an older keyboard, but the action on it is still really solid and very nice. It has an expansion piano card in it, so it can be played without anything from MainStage. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute, but just on its own, it's a very good keyboard, some good sounds in it. It's got the sliders in it so I can mix in piano, pad, whatever sounds I want, and yeah, it's just a really good board. So from there, I have a stand. Let me lift up the computer a little bit so you can see. This is, I think it's a Pyle portable DJ stand. And I'll put the links for all this stuff on a blog post so you can see what I'm using there. And that's worked really well just to keep the computer close. It's still out of the way. It's nice and low profile so I can still see what's on the computer, but it's not in the way. Hook up for an iPad, which I use to run our digital mixer software and update my in-ear monitor mix. And then over here, this is a new piece of gear, and this is an Akai MPK Mini. So the top should look very familiar if you've been watching any of my videos over the last few years. The top is basically an LPD8, but it's added the 25 key keyboard. So this basically combines two pieces of gear that I had before that were separate. So I had an LPD8 and I had a separate 25 key MIDI controller. So I use this basically to control the sounds in MainStage, this to trigger different tracks in Ableton Live. And so just having them in one piece of gear keeps things close, but also it means there's only one USB cable going into my computer instead of two, which means I can get by without a USB hub. So that cleans up the cables pretty quickly. I didn't say on the keyboard or on the computer I'm running Ableton Live as well as MainStage. So back here, this is, I've talked about this before, this is the stand that I built. It's just a solid wood top, very simple design, and it's got the iron pipe legs. And one of the nice things about this is it hides all the cables and everything back here, which are quite a bit cleaner. And let me talk to you real quick about what we have, just the stereo audio out from the internal keyboard sounds, the sustain pedal, MIDI cable, which goes to the interface that I'll show you in just a moment, and then just some simple power stuff, and then the cables which run back to the rack. And this is a little simpler setup than I had before. Before I had a big black homemade rack case that would sit out here next to the keyboard legs. Just kind of ugly and big, and so I'm able to fit this underneath the riser and put the cover over it so it's out of sight. The reason I'm able to do this is because I switched out this is a Motu Ultralight MK3. It's a FireWire or USB audio interface. I use the USB part. The nice thing about this is it has MIDI. It's an audio interface. It has plenty of outputs that I can run out separate audio outputs for Ableton, for MainStage, for Click, and also Keybase, which I'll talk about in a second. But it also has kind of a built-in mixer. You use it with the computer software, and so I'm able to plug my keyboard audio directly into this and mix it with MainStage, mix it down to a stereo pair, and so that eliminated the need I had before. I had a whole other unit that was in here that was a line mixer, and so I was able to get rid of that, and so I shrunk it down. I had this 3-space portable rack, and now I have just the half rack Motu, and then this is a Whirlwind multi-director. It's basically 4 DI boxes in one rack mount unit, and then just a power conditioner Furman M8X2. And again, I'll put the links for this on the blog post. So the nice thing about this is it's actually a portable rack case. So if we needed to go out and play somewhere, I could just grab that and unhook the snake cables and take that where we needed to go. So one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to go to something simpler is just because when you're behind a whole bunch of keyboards, it's a little bit more difficult to lead worship and connect with people when you're behind this mammoth keyboard rig. One of the things that I had to do was figure out how to go down from 2 keyboards to 1 keyboard. A lot of Sundays, and especially during the summer right now, we're without a bass player, and so I have to cover the bass part with my left hand. And so I had a second keyboard on a second tier that I would just use, and it was plugged into and run, out through the bass line. And so what I did was I sampled the bass sounds in that keyboard and ran them into main stage and sound. So now when I need a bass sound, I just either put a split or a layer on the lower part of the keyboard and use that for bass, and it just runs through main stage. And again, that just allows the setup to be a lot cleaner, and I feel like there's less in between me and the people that we're trying to connect with in worship. Another thing is I wanted to have something that was more ergonomic. I was having to get down and reach behind stuff, and it was really just kind of a pain to get at stuff. I wanted this to be cleaner as well. It's so much easier to keep the cable runs looking nice, and any messiness from the cables are out of sight. Again, as I already said, is more portable. So I could take this rack case down below. I could take that and basically any size keyboard. It wouldn't even have to be 88 keys. I could take, a 60 key keyboard out somewhere, and just set it up and run the same, pretty much exact sounds through my computer that I'm used to running on Sunday with this setup here. So I'm really happy with it, and I think the overall lesson is that if there's something that's not really working for you in your keyboard rig, the technology and the ability to make it what is really custom and works well for you. Make sure you just put in a little bit of time and effort and thought into it, and you can get something that works really well for you. So hope that gives you some ideas. Keep me posted on if there's anything that you're trying to do with your rig or update it at all. And check out the blog post for links on where you can get this stuff. Just a few more thoughts. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.